Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Boxy Babes podcast. Today we are continuing our discussion of Sunset Boulevard, the current revival of Andrew Lloyd Webber's classic musical, which recently closed on Broadway. But before we jump into the show, like, follow, and subscribe to Boxy Babes on all social media platforms at Boxy Babes to stay up to date on our podcast episodes, exclusive interviews, and reviews from shows on Broadway and here in Michigan. And also, spoiler warning, we are going to be talking about Sunset Boulevard. So if you've not seen it, and if you do not want spoilers, turn away now because we are going to get into the technical aspects such as music and staging and give our final verdicts on this musical. Thank you so much for joining us. What's up, RJ? Welcome back. I think this is going to be more of the exciting episode than perhaps the last one where we talked about the story. Because there's so much technicality to Sunset Boulevard that it was almost hard to talk about the story without talking about some of these things.
Yes.
Because there's so much going on. But just a quick recap for those people who don't know, Sunset Boulevard stars a aging star, Norma Desmond, who has decided she's going to get back into the world of acting that she doesn't even know that she's left by writing her, piece de resistance, right? That's the right word, right? She's gonna be writing this screenplay, and she enlists the help of Tom Ellis to help her write a screenplay writer who is on some uneven ground in his life, and it's about the relationship that ensues and all of the chaos that follows. I think that's a good way to sum it up without spoiling too much. Let's jump into the music, because there is a lot of this, and some of this again goes with the staging and the technicality. So we're gonna pull it apart as much as possible, but if we cross over, it's gonna be fine. What did you think of the music of Sunset Boulevard?
I mean, we open with a grand old overture that I, forgot happened. But of course, with Andrew Lloyd Webber, what can you expect? I also just generally forgot how much of the music I knew already. Like, these are classics that people sing for audition cuts all of the time, karaoke songs. The very movie-esque, like exactly what you would envision in a 1950s even film soundtrack. It's just, it's like you're turning on a cinema reel, and that's what starts playing.
Something I noticed about a lot of the shows, granted, maybe it's because we saw a lot of revivals, but there's a lot of the return to the overture that's going on right now, which is not a bad thing. But I think it does really set the tone for the show. And this one in specific, it is like haunting melody after haunting melody of just like, I watched your eyes like recognize each song as it started. I think even during intermission, you said, I knew all of those songs. These are songs that like people pull out all the time to audition, to just sing, because they are so haunting. I'm pretty sure that's probably what it is. Like, they're such a haunting, they catch your attention right away, they get stuck in your head. I'm pretty sure I sang Sunset Boulevard for the rest of the trip, and I could be wrong, but I did sing it quite a bit. I could have sung it in my sleep. I don't even know. You a fan of Andrew Lloyd Webber's scores? Like, do you like he has a very technical, like, I love Phantom of the Opera, but you're not going to catch me listening to Cats. Like, I guess, like, where does this fall in Andrew Lloyd Webber's repertoire of scores and music?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely leans way more towards Phantom than Cats. But a very powerful one. I mean, it's I would rank it well. It's not something that I have listened to on repeat like Phantom, but it's also like, if I want, because I'm a nerd, and if I want dramatic kind of cinema type music, especially like instrumental versions, like this would be a good score to look at, because there's a lot of variety, there's a lot of power ballads. It's the very like grandiose, let's make this song super frickin' long for no reason. and pull at everybody's heartstrings.
For sure. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know a lot of his works. I pulled up his theater credits here. Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, never seen it. Jesus Christ Superstar, never seen it. Evita, never seen it. Like, there's so many. He has so many. Starlight Express, I know that's a big one that's kind of making a revival right now. It's interesting that it's the later ones, like Phantom of the Opera. I know that one. Sunset Boulevard, I now know. I know Love Never Dies. I did not know that he did a Wizard of Oz in 2011, which is crazy to me. He is so. What I think is interesting about his music, it's pretty hit or miss. Like, it's like one of those things. Like, there's some shows you could love by him, and there's some shows you can hate. But it's not like. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the oddball out here. It's not like every show you're gonna love here, out of his repertoire of shows.
Yeah, it's a very he is an instrumental pop star, right? Like, he is
Yeah.
you it's like any other artist. Typically, if you like the artist, like if you're a hardcore follower of that artist, you're probably going to like most of what they put out. Otherwise, he's a very acquired taste.
For sure.
I do like most of his stuff for exactly what it is. Like, I know what I'm going to get when I listen to his stuff. It doesn't
Sure.
really stray that far off of itself. But there are some people that I know that they're like, it's too much for me.
So you're telling me Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat is as haunting as Sunset Boulevard and Phantom of the Opera?
No.
That's fair. That's fine. I don't even know what that show's about. But
It's his most. Is it his most upbeat show? It might be. It
says
is
a
a
lot about it.
different. It's a different genre, a little bit more poppy, and then Jesus Christ Superstar is a little bit more like rockish. But he has evolved as a composer for sure. Like, as we've even in that list, as we've dabbled. But these earlier ones, I think, appropriate to the time that it was created.
That's fair. So who knows what Sherlock Holmes and the 12 Days of Christmas that's coming out in 2025 is going to be like.
I feel like there's been a couple of flops lately, but
School of Rock, Cinderella, that have been done. I mean, School of Rock did all right, I guess, but it's not one that really stays in the mind, kind of like Sunset Boulevard and Phantom of the Opera that just keep coming back. And actually, depending on when this comes out, I can't say, but we know Phantom of the Opera's touring. So, that being said, I actually start this one off. The song that caught my attention so much is Sunset Boulevard, but I think it has to do more with the technicality of the show. And so I think I'm going to talk about these parts together. So Sunset Boulevard starts off Act 2. And they film this outside as they're going, which to me was just like the most mind-blowing thing that I could ever think of a show doing. Because I think we've never seen this before. Or at least I've never seen a show like this before that used cameras the way that they did. And so Sunset Boulevard is not only this haunting melody of Joe's thoughts of like how like horrible the situation is and how Hollywood's really messed with him, but it also just made it feel real. I think is a good way to put it. Like, made it like grounded that song a little bit more. So that one was a standout for me. What one spoke to you?
I mean, I love With One Look, but I am, like, find me loving all of the power ballads all of the time.
I was gonna say that's like your bread and butter.
It's the powerhouse. It is and she has a couple powerhouse moments, but this one I think just like really takes the cake. And it's just, I mean, it's an impressive song. So yeah,
this show really does give those two specifically, but really gives them a lot of moments to kind of shine in their like vocals and their musicality. Specifically, Nicole Scherzinger, she gets quite a few moments as Norma to just like rip you open And if you're Joe, maybe literally. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of moments that she kind of gets to like really play with her vocal range, which is huge because she has a huge vocal range. That it does let Norma kind of be that. Indeed, she's the star of the show. You know.
Yeah, and you don't really hear songs like this anymore. Like
Mhm.
there's just a moment in a song where it goes from like good level to just great. And
Yes.
I feel like musical theater now is written in a very quick tempoed way that, you don't have these massive holds anymore. You don't have these super long notes that are very intricate. Whereas this one, that's the bread and butter of this. And I don't know how long the hold is in this in With One Look. It's very long. I think she actually
Yes.
made it longer somehow, but it is impressive. Like it is, and vocalists know, like it's just not just breath support. It is breath support, and you have to work at that. You have to work it up. You have to
Mhm.
train your lungs to be able to do that. And part of it's skill, part of it's talent. Um, but it's unless you're going to revivals, you're really not seeing a lot of it
Mhm.
in modern day musicals. So when you do, it's just like incredible. Uh,
Mhm.
and I mean, she kicked it into like 10th gear. So
100%. I mean that I know what note you're talking about because I thought that's never gonna end. Like she's never that note's never stopping because she held it and it was like so it seemed so effortless from like the outward perspective, but having really gotten into like learning some things, I knew how hard they had to be because to keep it so clear with her tone and her like intonation and stuff like that like was something that you have to be a star to do. And I can't imagine that most people could pull that off, which is why it makes sense Carolyn Bowman was her understudy. You know what I mean? Like somebody who just has a complete vocal range, complete control, makes it look easy. Like you have to be so on top of your craft to achieve that, I would assume.
yeah, yeah. And the reason that those moments don't really exist much is because you're so exposed in a note like that or notes like that that if anything goes wrong, like I mean, if anything gets caught in your throat all like halfway through because your mouth is wide open, um,
Right.
it can just wreck the moment. And so you're so exposed as a singer, and that's why it's just so impressive because you're like the strength that you have to have, even the core strength, really using your abs to push through it. But yeah, it's good stuff.
It explains why quite a few shows this season that have moments like this why there's so many sick like call outs because like if you're doing this 8 shows a week after week, eventually you're gonna hit a point where your body's just like you like Nicole. I don't actually think Nicole's called out all that often, but like there's gonna be moments where your body's gonna be like, what are you doing? Like the amount of strain you're putting yourself under. What do you
Yeah.
think the music does for the story? Because I feel like this is a very like this is almost like a psychological thriller. What do you think like the progression of the music does? Because it feels like almost like you're descending into madness a little bit with them, and the music helps to carry that. Like that noir feel, you know? Like there's like that 1950s noir feel to the show that kind of pushes that narrative.
Yeah, it's kind of like broken up, I feel like.
Mhm.
And I mean, I'm sure I could like analyze the music itself in regards to what key he has it written in and um, just kind of what is musically happening. But it is very the descending notes. Of course, makes sense. We're kind of getting deeper. We're getting darker in as we go further and further. It is interesting to me, like you mentioned, like Sunset Boulevard opening Act Two. So we kind of start again. It's almost like starting at the top of the stairs, and we're making our way down. And I feel
Yes.
like that's kind of what's happening musically as well. Even through
Mhm.
some of the dialogue, we have this underlying musical score happening that's a little bit haunting um, and I do think plays into the depth of what's happening character wise.
Speaking of that, I think that I mean, it's a great segue, so we're just going to use it. About the set design, specifically the camera usage. Um, I had known before we went into the show that there was not a set. I had some people that had seen the show and they said you're going to be shocked. There's no set, but they make it work. It's really beautiful. And I don't think I was prepared at how beautiful it was with absolutely nothing on that stage with the people and lights. There's nothing going on there. How what does that do for you? Somebody who is a little more technical, what was that staging like? What was the use of cameras like for you? The use of lighting? How did it all kind of play together for you?
I mean, I was a little worried about it at first
Oh,
because you
sure.
didn't know where to look.
Oh,
But
sure.
then I think there's a good balance, and clearly it's just so intentional. Like the movements were so intentional, and it obviously spoke to the fact that once again, the whole premise is around Hollywood and the movies. So that was cool. Like the crossover of what they were doing and what they were talking about were the same thing. So
Mhm.
I thought the idea was very different, but also very well received.
And so, just to give people kind of a picture of what it is they used a lot of handheld camera setups. They either had people that were holding them, or sometimes even the actors themselves were holding them, and then it was projected onto the screen behind the actors, like a big giant screen. So there's one scene where he's driving a car and he's kind of going I think it's the opening scene actually. He's driving a car and it looks like he's weaving in and out, but it's just him holding a camera sitting in a chair. And so when you go into act 2, there's someone on a camera following him, and then eventually he goes through all of the theater in the background, and then he goes outside to sing Sunset Boulevard, and he walks around. And I'm sure people have seen this on TikTok because that's all I see, people filming it. And so there is this real big emphasis on the camera. And so when you say that you didn't know where to focus, I agree. Because at first I was like, what am I supposed to be looking at? Because as an average theater goer, we look at the actors, we look at this the set and the actors and what's going on, and then all of a sudden there'd be these scenes happening on the screen. You're like, where do you focus? Where's the eye supposed to go?
Well, I would assume that the purpose of the camera work is that we're seeing the facial expressions, right? Because I mean, these
Mm-hmm.
are close up shots. It's not like we're getting full body shots. Like, I don't think
No.
we ever got more than maybe a half, like from the waist up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
except for a couple kind of shadowy shots. But most of the time, we're looking right at their face. Like you can see
100%.
everything. So that I appreciated because it really, once again, when we talk about the fact that they're emulating film, the acting part of it truly, they didn't have to overact because everyone could see just the right amount of acting happening on the big screen, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they were just showing it to everyone by looking right at the camera. Um, so
And at times I felt
I
like they were
know,
breaking the fourth wall.
yeah, yeah. Well, and that was interesting too because it's and we should mention a lot of I can't remember if the cameras themselves were black and white or if the lighting just was in such a way that it appeared to be black and white because the whole set was black except for light.
Yes.
So that also obviously gave it the 50s
Mm-hmm.
film feel, but definitely a completely new and different approach, or at least unlike anything that I had seen previously.
I do agree. I think that the cameras themselves were black and white, and I could be wrong. And if somebody who watches this that works on the show would love to tell us, please let us know. But I think it was black and white. But at the same time, the stage was so dark and so it looked like it went on forever, and then those lights were so bright And hashtag touring show of Hadestown, you could learn a little bit about lighting usage from Sunset Boulevard here and not blinding your people. But just, I digress. But there, it was this really like, it was very haunting in the fact that there was nothing on stage. And then you got those, I'm always thinking of those close up shots of like when you saw Norma behind like Joe's back, and you really got those looks of like how she's seeing things, and like that was almost like the like we're not supposed to see this, like you're not supposed to see this moment, you're not supposed to be experiencing this, but you get that inside look that he does it, and you know just like the level of delusion that's happening as you're spiraling down. And so that was really beautiful, that was really interesting. Once you got used to knowing where to look, and like once you got knowing where to look, it was easy peasy, you know, lemon squeezy. But something about the set that I do want to bring up is there was two times that maybe I was just like, what is actually going on here? And one of them was the entry into Sunset Boulevard when he's walking in the background, and you're just like, how meta are we being here? Like, is this the actor? Is this the character? And then the other time was with the computer. They had a computer that they were writing a screenplay on that was off to the side, and I was just like, this is the 1950s. And so to me, those were just moments of like, what are we speaking to? Like, where are we drawing the line? And what did that do to the show? Did those moments throw you off at all?
Yes, although now looking back at it, if we want to be that articulate, cameras back then
Right.
would have been massive, right? Like they wouldn't have been these little DSLR. I mean, I'm sure they were fancier than DSLR, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
small video cameras that they were using. So yeah, there were moments where they picked and choose. Those were the most obvious because you know you're walking through the dressing rooms. You're looking at all of the cast in their dressing rooms, kind of poking fun at a couple of them. There was a couple jokes in there. Um, there was some intentional showing of a couple of the props. So it was like they broke the fourth wall, but you weren't really sure why. And then, yeah, the computer, the modern age stuff, it it took you a step outside of everything else that felt like it fit. Um, so obviously, choices were made.
And again, maybe that speaks to the fact of like the budget, or like trying to keep the budget to where it was, or maybe it was to speak to the fact of while it was the 1950s, delusions don't always make sense time ways. Like, maybe there's a reason. Those were just two moments that, like, in the show, I stopped and being like, that seems weird. Like that, just like there was like those little tiny moments where I was like, what is that capturing? And ultimately, did it stop me from enjoying the show? No, because this is also another show that was kind of my top five. Like, I loved this show so much that I'm not going to really be able to speak bad about it. That being said, it's getting an A in my book. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I would give it an A as well.
Would you recommend this for people, or would this be a show that like you'd recommend, but there's caveats?
Yes, I mean, I would recommend it if you know the show. Like if you know the show or you have seen the movie, then go for it. I think you will be lost if you don't know the show at all and if you haven't seen the movie.
Okay.
Granted, I say that and like you didn't know, but
And I did it. I did not know, but I think I also knew enough. Like, I guess like there was some knowledge of kind of what to expect without knowing what to expect. Probably because of the advertisements on social media that are really pushing right now. I'm gonna ask you because you've seen the movie. Does this breathe new life into it, or is this like a must see show compared? Like, how does this rank towards the movie that you saw prior to this?
I mean, I like the musical aspect of it because the movie is not a musical. So
Okay.
I like that addition. I think the movie lends itself more to still, even though they have film usage. It just, you can do more in a movie when it comes to imagining, the car and the house, like the level of star and the delusion that it is makes more sense when she's in her house. Um,
Yes, I
so
can see that.
that part I think is just what is kind of the defining line between the two.
Sure, absolutely. This one was a lot more leaving things to the imagination, which people can interpret differently each and every time.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know what a 50s star mansion looks like if I was to take my younger sister to this, I'm not sure that she would have any idea. I don't think she would imagine because she wouldn't know what to imagine.
Sure, that makes sense. But overall, from the two of us, it's a plus, and so I would recommend it. I would love to see the show again. If it was still playing in New York when I went there, I probably would want to catch it again. Um, but yeah, and so for that, we've concluded part 2 of our Sunset Boulevard discussion. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.